The phone fell from Camille's hand, hitting the floor as her knees buckled beneath her. The kitchen tiles felt cold against her palms as she collapsed, struggling to breathe. "Mrs. Jensen? Are you still there?" The police officer's voice continued from the fallen phone, now tiny and distant. Just this morning, Camille had kissed Cameron goodbye at the door. "Love you. See you tonight," he'd said with that gentle smile she'd cherished for 15 years. Now, according to Strange on the phone, Cameron was dead, his car found wrapped around a tree off Route 16, the vehicle engulfed in flames. "There must be some mistake," she whispered, fingers shaking as she reached for the phone. "I'm very sorry, ma'am. We'll need you to come identify some personal items we recovered from the scene." The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the hollow silence. Rain began to tap against the window as darkness fell early. People say death marks the end, the final line in your story. But what if it's just the beginning? What if what looks like an ending is actually something else? Camille's phone lit up with a text. "Unknown number. Don't believe them. I'm not dead." She stared at the screen, heart pounding. The message vanished before her eyes, deleted remotely. When the person closest to your heart betrays you, which cuts deeper, the lie they told or the truth they kept hidden, how do you know which version of them was real? Camille clutched the phone to her chest, tears streaming down her face. If Cameron wasn't dead, where was he? And why would he fake his own death? The doorbell rang. Camille Jensen moved through the hospital corridors with quick, practiced steps. At Memorial General, her patients trusted her completely. 15 years as a nurse had taught her to spot the smallest signs of trouble, a skill that somehow failed her home. "Mommy, when's Daddy coming back?" 8-year-old Bryn asked over breakfast, blue eyes wide with innocence. The same eyes as her father. "Soon, sweetie. Daddy's on his business trip, remember?" The lie tasted bitter, but what could she tell their daughter? That the man who read her bedtime stories was sitting in a county jail cell? Camille and Cameron met in college. He was a charming business major with big dreams. She was a practical nursing student. His ambition drew her in. By graduation, they were married, and 3 years later, welcome Bryn. The first warning sign came when Cameron lost his investment firm job. He promised he'd find something better. Then came the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the unexplained cash. Cameron claimed he was consulting, but wouldn't say for whom. "Just trust me," he'd say, flashing a smile that still weakened her knees. "I'm handling it." What Cameron was handling turned out to be an elaborate investment fraud scheme targeting elderly clients. When federal agents showed up at their door 6 months ago, Camille's world collapsed. "I did it for us," Cameron insisted through the visitation glass. "For our future." While Cameron awaited trial, Camille juggled single parenthood, mounting legal bills, and the whispers that followed her everywhere. Still, she visited him weekly, tore between loyalty and anger. "You'll stand by me, right?" he asked her in their last visit, reaching for her hand across the table. She nodded, because despite everything, she still loved him. Or at least, she loved the man she thought he was. Now, facing the news of his apparent death, Camille questioned everything she knew about the man she married. Who was Cameron Jensen, really? And if he wasn't dead, where was he and why? If you're intrigued by this true crime story, hit like and subscribe now. The details of what happens next might change how you look at those closest to you. The county jail's official report came in a manila envelope. Cold, clinical words described how Cameron Jensen died during a prison transport, a violent altercation that left 3 inmates dead and a guard in critical condition. The van had careened off the road, burst into flames. Dental records confirmed Cameron's identity among the charred remains. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Jensen." the prison administrator said, sliding victim compensation paperwork across his desk. Your husband was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Camille nodded mechanically, her mind rejecting every word. This couldn't be real. At home, she moved like a ghost through familiar rooms. She cooked meals she couldn't taste. She helped Bryn with homework, read bedtime stories, all while feeling hollow inside. Daddy's in heaven now, she finally told Bryn one evening, holding her daughter close as sobs racked the little girl's body. But he was supposed to come home soon, Bryn cried. You promised. Those words haunted Camille through sleepless nights. She'd promised Bryn so many things that now seemed impossible. Mornings became an exercise in pretending to eat breakfast, pretending to care about her appearance, pretending the world hadn't stopped turning. She returned to work after 2 weeks, hoping routine would numb the pain. You're pushing yourself too hard, said Candace, sliding a coffee across the nurse's station. Candace had been Camille's rock since nursing school, the one who held her hair at graduation parties and held her hand through labor with Bryn. I can't fall apart, Camille whispered. Bryn needs me. And you need sleep, Candace replied, noting the dark circles under her friend's eyes. Come stay with us this weekend. Brian can barbecue, the kids can play, and you can breathe for 5 minutes. Camille managed a weak smile. What would I do without you? Let's hope you never find out, Candace said, squeezing her hand. 3 weeks after the funeral, Camille noticed a black sedan parked across from their house. Not unusual for their suburban neighborhood, except this one appeared every morning when she left for work and was gone by evening. You're just being paranoid, she told herself, adjusting the rearview mirror as she drove Bryn to school. But paranoia didn't explain the letter that arrived with no return address. Inside a single typed line, check the offshore account. Cameron had never mentioned offshore accounts. Then again, he kept many secrets. When Camille called the bank where they'd always banked, they had no record of additional accounts. Mr. Jensen handled all his business matters separately, the manager explained. That night, while going through Cameron's home office, she found a business card hidden in his desk drawer for Atlantic Trust Bank with a handwritten number on the back. Her hands trembled as she dialed. Yes, Mrs. Jensen. Your husband set up security protocols. I'll need the passphrase. Passphrase? She had no idea. After 3 failed attempts, the banker suggested she visit in person with identification. The following day, a text message appeared on her phone from an unknown number. The passphrase is Bryn's birthday backwards. Camille froze in the hospital break room, nearly dropping her coffee. Who could know about the offshore account and the passphrase problem she'd encountered? Everything okay? Candace asked, noticing her expression. Fine, Camille lied. Just forgot Bryn has a dentist appointment. That evening, as she tucked Bryn into bed, Camille noticed a man walking a dog past their house. The 3rd time that week, always at bedtime, always slowing down near their driveway. Later, sitting alone in the kitchen, she studied the business card. The handwriting matched Cameron's distinctive style. She thought about the text message, the black sedan, the man with the dog. Dead men don't set up passphrase or send text messages. For the first time since receiving the devastating news, Camille considered a possibility both terrifying and hopeful. What if Cameron wasn't dead after all? Camille spread her dining table with papers. The prison report, news clippings about the transport accident, and Cameron's case files. If he was alive, she needed proof. First, she called the medical examiner's office, claiming to need death certificate copies for insurance purposes. I understand this is difficult, Mrs. Jensen, the clerk said, but the identification was confirmed through dental records. Which dentist provided those records? Camille asked, pen poised over her notepad. A pause. I'm not authorized to share that information. That night, Camille searched Cameron's email. Among thousands of messages, she found correspondence with 3 different dentists in the past year, none of whom were Dr. Patterson, their family dentist for a decade. Next, she contacted a former patient who worked at the courthouse. "Could you check something for me?" Off the record, the woman texted her the transport manifest 2 days later. For inmates were scheduled for transport, but the accident report listed 5 bodies. The extra person had no name, just an inmate number that led nowhere when she searched the prison database. "This doesn't add up," Camille whispered to Candace over lunch. And there's more. Cameron's lawyer says he never requested a transfer to the minimum security facility. "What are you saying?" Candace asked, leaning forward. "I think someone helped him escape using the transport accident as cover. They needed a body to identify as Cameron." Candace looked skeptical. "I know how it sounds," Camille admitted. "But what if one of the guards was corrupt? The one who survived, Officer Reynolds, was new, transferred from another facility just 2 months before the accident." That evening, Camille found a newspaper article about Reynolds. Before becoming a prison guard, he worked security at Atlantic Trust Bank, the same bank where Cameron had his secret account. She printed Reynolds' photo and pinned it to her growing investigation board. Too many coincidences. The black sedan, the mysterious texts, the extra body, the offshore account, the new guard with banking connections. Cameron had always been clever. Had he planned his own death down to the last detail? Have you ever suspected someone faked their own death? Or discovered a loved one was living a double life? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help others recognize the warning signs. "Someone was in your backyard last night," Candace said, pacing Camille's kitchen. "I was up with the baby and saw a flashlight moving near your garden shed." Camille's heart raced. "Did you call the police?" "By the time I got my phone, they were gone. I thought maybe it was you, but then realized how late it was." That afternoon, Camille inspected the garden shed. Nothing seemed disturbed until she noticed a loose floorboard. Beneath it lay a sealed manila envelope. Inside was a thumb drive and a note in Cameron's handwriting. "When you find this, I'll be watching. Don't trust anyone." The thumb drive contained surveillance photos of their home, Bryn's school, and Camille's workplace, all taken after Cameron's supposed death. The final image showed Officer Reynolds meeting with a man whose face was hidden by a baseball cap. "He planned this," Camille whispered, hand shaking. "Cameron planned everything." Candace suggested they check the traffic cameras near their house. Her brother-in-law worked for the city's transportation department and owed her a favor. 3 days later, they had grainy footage of the black sedan. The license plate led to a rental company, paid for with a credit card under the name Cameron James, an anagram of Cameron Jensen. "He's alive," Camille said, both relieved and furious. "He let me grieve. Let our daughter cry herself to sleep for weeks." "But why?" Candace asked. "Why would he do this?" The answer came when Camille finally accessed the offshore account. It held $3.7 million, far more than Cameron had allegedly stolen. Bank records showed transfers from companies Camille didn't recognize, with the last deposit made just 2 days ago. He's still running his scheme, she realized. The arrest didn't stop him, it just made him change methods. That night, Camille checked Bryn's window locks twice. Her husband wasn't just a con man. He was a man willing to traumatize his own family to escape justice. The question now wasn't only where Cameron was hiding, but what he might do next. The break-in at Camille's house happened while she was working the night shift. Nothing valuable was taken, just Cameron's old laptop and their wedding album. The police officer who responded seemed indifferent. "Probably just kids looking for cash," he suggested. But Camille knew better. This was Cameron coming closer. The next day, she found a USB drive in her purse. She had no idea how it got there. When she plugged it in, her hands went cold. It contained emails between her and the FBI from 6 months ago. Emails she'd sent after discovering evidence of Cameron's additional crimes. Emails she'd sent before his arrest. "You betrayed me," read the attached note. "Now I'm returning the favor." Cameron hadn't escaped to restart his life elsewhere. He'd stayed close for revenge, believing Camille had turned him in. "He thinks I informed on him," Camille told Candace, voice shaking. "But I only contacted them after he was already arrested." Candace's husband Brian, a real estate agent, revealed something chilling. A house 3 blocks away had been rented 4 weeks ago to a Cameron James, paid in cash, minimal background check. "He's been watching us this whole time," Camille whispered. That night, she found a folder hidden in Bryn's backpack. Inside were printouts of offshore banking details, transfer dates, and account numbers, all in Camille's name. Documents that made it appear she was the mastermind behind Cameron's fraud scheme. "He's framing me," she realized with horror, "setting me up to take the fall while he walks free." More disturbing was the child custody paperwork, already filled out with Cameron's mother listed as Bryn's guardian in the event of maternal incarceration. While searching for more evidence, Camille discovered something that stopped her heart: a calendar with tomorrow's date circled in red. Written beneath it, "She goes to FBI 3 p.m. He had scheduled her downfall. A text message lit up her phone. "You should have stayed loyal. Family means nothing once broken." The man she had loved, mourned, and raised a child with wasn't just alive. He was methodically working to destroy her life and take their daughter. And he was close enough to make it happen by tomorrow afternoon. "We need to move quickly," Candace said, helping Camille organize the evidence spread across her kitchen table. "If Cameron plans to frame you tomorrow, we need to act tonight." They sorted everything into 3 piles: proof of Cameron's survival, evidence of his revenge plan, and documentation of the original fraud scheme. "The rental house is our best lead," Camille said, circling its address on a neighborhood map. "If we can prove he's living there, the FBI will have to listen." Brian pulled up in the driveway with a camera equipped with a telephoto lens. "My buddy from the photography club loaned it to us. Should be strong enough to get clear shots from a distance." As they finalized their plan, Camille found herself staring at their wedding photo, still hanging on the wall. The man smiling back at her seemed like a stranger now. "You once told me he was your soulmate," Candace said softly, following her gaze. "I thought he was," Camille replied. 15 years together, and I never really knew him." "Are you sure you want to do this? We could just call the FBI now." Camille shook her head. "Without proof he's alive, they'll think I'm either crazy or complicit. We need concrete evidence." They gathered burner phones, cameras, and printed copies of all documentation. Camille recorded a video explaining everything, which Candace would keep as insurance. "If anything happens to me," Camille said, handing Candace a sealed envelope, "this contains instructions for Bryn's care. My sister will take her." "Nothing will happen to you," Candace insisted, but took the envelope anyway. As darkness fell, they prepared to head toward the rental house, where Cameron, believing himself invisible, might finally make a mistake they could document. The rental house stood dark against the night sky as Camille approached the back door. Through the kitchen window, she could see him, Cameron, alive and well, working at a laptop. "Stay in the car," she told Candace. "If I'm not back in 20 minutes, call the police." Her hand trembled as she knocked. When the door opened, she faced the husband she'd buried 3 months ago. "I wonder when you figure it out," Cameron said calmly. stepping aside to let her in. No surprise, no shame, just cold calculation in his eyes. The kitchen table was covered with documents, fake passports, banking information, and photos of Camille and Bryn. Why? The question barely escaped her throat. You betrayed me, he said, pouring himself a drink. I built everything for us, and you threw me to the wolves. I never contacted the FBI until after your arrest, Camille replied. They already knew. Lies. Cameron slammed his glass down. They had inside information only you could have provided. Your partner Mark turned on you, she said. He took a deal months before they came for you. Confusion flickered across his face, quickly replaced by anger. It doesn't matter now. By tomorrow, you'll be under investigation, and I'll be gone with Bryn. She's not part of this, Camille said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She's my daughter, who you let believe you were dead, who cried herself to sleep for weeks. Cameron's expression hardened. Children are resilient. She'll forget all that once were settled somewhere new. I won't let that happen, Camille said, pressing the record button on her phone in her pocket. You're going back to prison where you belong. And who's going to make that happen? He asked, laughing. You? Against my word and all the evidence pointing to you. No, Camille said as flashing lights appeared outside. The FBI agents poured through both doors. Cameron lunged for his laptop, but it was too late. As they led him away, he hissed at her, "This isn't over." "For you," she replied. "It is." Want more true crime stories about seemingly perfect lives that hide dark secrets? Subscribe now and never miss an episode that might just save your life one day. The evidence Camille gathered proved damning. Cameron faced new charges of faking his death, identity fraud, and attempted framing of an innocent person, adding decades to his original sentence. Mrs. Jensen's cooperation was crucial to this case. The FBI agent told reporters outside the courthouse. Her bravery ended a complex fraud operation. Neighbors who once whispered behind Camille's back now approached with apologies and support. Her nursing colleagues organized meal trains and childcare assistance. "People don't know what to say," Candace explained as another neighbor dropped off a casserole. "But they want to help." The healing wasn't instant. Bryn required therapy to process her father's betrayal, asking questions no child should have to ask. Did Daddy ever love us? Camille sold their house, too filled with painful memories, and moved closer to her sister. She joined a support group for victims of financial abuse, finding strength in shared experiences. 6 months later, she stood on the beach watching Bryn build sandcastles, feeling sunlight on her face for what seemed like the first time in years. "We're going to be okay," she told her daughter, finally believing in herself. The nightmare wasn't just over. It had made her stronger. 2 years after Cameron's final conviction, Camille stood before a room of fraud survivors, sharing her story. "What makes betrayal so devastating isn't just the lies," she explained. "It's that someone you trusted completely used your love as a weapon against you." Her experience had taught her painful but valuable lessons. Financial abuse often begins with small secrets. Control disguises itself as protection. Love becomes a shield to deflect questions. "Trust your instincts," she advised the group. "Those moments when something feels wrong, they're usually right." Camille had rebuilt her life piece by piece. She returned to school for her nurse practitioner license. She and Bryn found peace in their new home. Though dating remained difficult, she'd recently allowed a kind pediatrician to take her to dinner. The hardest part, she admitted, was learning to trust again, not just others, but myself. For years, I questioned how I missed the signs. What saved Camille wasn't just evidence or loyal friends. It was her own courage to face the truth, however painful, and her determination to protect her daughter. The letters she received weekly from other victims confirmed the importance of sharing her story. Each person who recognized warning signs in their own relationships represented a life potentially saved from similar pain. We can't always prevent deception, Camille concluded, but we can refuse to let it define us. If this story helped you understand the warning signs of financial abuse or deception, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more true stories of survival and resilience that could one day help you or someone you love.